All right, let's jump right in. We live in a world of instant everything, where an idea can literally circle the globe in the time it takes to read this sentence. But what happens when you take all that away? No internet, no social media, zero smartphones. How did truly revolutionary ideas, I'm talking ideas that would bring down kings, manage to spread back in the 18th century? Well, that's what we're going to figure out.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but the 18th century had its own incredibly effective and often really dangerous information networks. They didn't have fiber optics, of course, but what they did have was this unstoppable mix of passion, cleverness, and a real hunger for knowledge that completely changed the world. To get a feel for it, just think of it like this. Their books and pamphlets, that was their social media feed. The exclusive, intimate salons where all the great minds gathered, those were basically the must-listen podcasts of their day. And a really well-written letter passed from person to person, that could go viral just like a modern meme. The technology was totally different, but that human drive to share, to argue, and to connect, exactly the same.
Okay, so where do we even begin? We have to start with what was probably the single most ambitious and dangerous publishing project of the entire century. And I want you to forget the idea of a dusty old reference book. This was an intellectual weapon.
It was called the Encyclopedia, and its goal, well, it was completely radical. See, this wasn't just about collecting facts. It was about changing how people thought about facts. The very idea that you could organize all human knowledge based on, reason instead of what the church or the king told you, that was a massive, direct challenge to the entire system. And the sheer scale of it is just mind-boggling. We're talking about 35 volumes packed with over 70,000 articles. This wasn't some little pamphlet you could just ignore. This was a full-on intellectual invasion, designed to explain absolutely everything from astronomy down to how to build a better mousetrap.
And the people behind it? Oh man, it was like the Avengers of the Enlightenment. You had Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, all wrangled by this incredible editor, Denis Diderot. But here's the really cool part, the truly radical move. They didn't just talk to other philosophers. They went out and got articles from clockmakers, from weavers, from craftsmen. And that, right there, was a huge political statement. It was saying, hey, the knowledge in your hands is just as important as the ideas in a theologian's head.
And that really gets to the core of the whole project, doesn't it? It all boils down to one powerful claim. Nothing is off limits. The authority of the Pope, the divine right of the king? Nope, everything. And they meant everything could be put under the microscope of human reason.
So you can probably guess what happened next, right? The authorities freaked out. The French government banned it, not once, but twice. The Pope condemned it. But Diderot, the editor, was playing this incredible game of cat and mouse. He'd hide these really sharp critiques of the government inside articles with super boring titles. And by the time the censors figured it all out, it was just too late. The cat was out of the bag. 20,000 sets were already circulating all across Europe. The ideas were loose.
But look, a book, even a revolutionary one, is still just ink on paper. For ideas to really catch fire, to go viral, people need to talk about them. They need to argue, to debate, to hash things out. And that brings us to the actual places where the Enlightenment happened. In France, the absolute epicenter of this was the Salon. Just try to picture it. You're in a beautiful private home in Paris, and you're surrounded by the most brilliant people of the era, philosophers, artists, revolutionaries, all in one room, just talking. And here is the most remarkable thing about the French Salon, the thing that might surprise you. Who was running the show? It was almost always a woman. Yeah, in an age where women couldn't even go to university, they were the ones running the entire intellectual scene. These hostesses, these salonières, they were the ultimate curators. They decided who got invited, they steered the conversations, they basically created the space for the Enlightenment to even happen. And don't think for a second they were just, pouring tea. These women were power players. Take Madame Joffrin. When the encyclopedia was about to go broke, she bankrolled it. When the government was trying to shut it down, she used her influence to protect it. There's a reason Voltaire himself called her the mother of the encyclopedia. He wasn't kidding. She basically saved the entire project.
Meanwhile, over in England, you had a totally different vibe. Forget the elegant, exclusive salons. The English had coffeehouses. And these places were noisy, they were chaotic, they were open to pretty much any man who could afford a cup of coffee. They called them penny universities. Because for just 1 penny, you got your coffee and you got access to all the latest news and, more importantly, all the latest arguments. It was a place where ideas from business and politics all smashed together.
Okay, so we've got the explosive ideas in the encyclopedia.
We've got the physical places where people could debate them, like the salons and coffeehouses. But how did an idea discussed in a Paris salon make its way to a coffee house in London or an inventor in Philadelphia? What was the invisible web that connected all these dots?
They called it the Republic of Letters, and it's such a cool concept. It wasn't a real place, right? It had no borders, no king, no government. It was a virtual community, a network that existed only in the mail. You had these incredible minds, Voltaire in France, Benjamin Franklin over in America, David Hume in Scotland, all connected, all writing to each other, sharing their latest work, arguing about theories. A massive, continent-spanning conversation that went on for decades.
Now let's be real. By today's standards, this internet was painfully slow. I mean, a letter from London to Paris? You're waiting 4 or 5 days. Want to hear back from someone in Philadelphia? That could take months. But here's the thing, it worked. It was just fast enough to keep this massive conversation going, a conversation that would literally change the world.
And isn't it wild to think that this entire grand intellectual revolution was built on the back of the most boring technology you can imagine? The Postal Service. That was the crucial infrastructure. And of course, the governments knew it. They were constantly intercepting and reading mail, which meant these thinkers had to get clever. Using fake names and secret codes, it turned writing a letter into this risky, high-stakes game.
So, forbidden books, secret conversations, a slow-motion internet made of paper. What does any of this 18th century stuff have to do with you and me right now? Well, it turns out, a lot.
Think about it. The whole goal of the Enlightenment was to democratize knowledge, right? To get it out of the hands of just kings and priests and share it with everyone. Sound familiar? It's the exact same promise the internet made. And both of these revolutions, separated by centuries, ran into the exact same challenge. Once you let information out of the box, you have no idea what people will do with it. It can lead to incredible breakthroughs, and it can also lead to absolute chaos.
And this wasn't even the first time this had happened. A couple hundred years before the Enlightenment, the printing press fueled the Protestant Reformation. That was all about challenging the church's power. Then, the Enlightenment used that same technology to challenge the power of kings. See the pattern? Same tool, a new revolution, and the same kind of unpredictable, messy, world-changing results.
And all of this leaves us staring at a question that's just as vital today as it was back then. The entire battle over the encyclopedia was really a battle over one thing: who gets to control the flow of information? We're having that exact same fight right now, just with different technology. So the question for them is the question for us. We all agree that information is power, but who should get to decide who has it?